This be for God's greater honor and glory. Amen. Please be seated. It happens every day that beautiful things unfold in our world, surrounded by tragedy and treachery and division. Happens all the time. It happened in this gospel where God was giving us something beautiful, his own son in the elements of consecrated bread and wine. And yet, even as that was happening, there was something terrible being planned behind Jesus' back. He was going to be betrayed. Judas Iscariot was probably not there at the institution of the Eucharist. Jesus knew it. The others may not have been so aware, but he said, "Not all of you are clean." He knew what was about to happen. But he didn't let that stop him. In the midst of this beautiful thing that he was doing for all of us, there was tragedy and treachery and deceit and lying happening. Still happens today. In the Republic of Ukraine, the second largest city is Kharkiv. It's a city of about 500,000 people, pretty big city. It's in the eastern part of the country, close to the Crimean border, maybe 50 miles south. It has a very sophisticated subway system, which because of the war has now become home to countless thousands of people who live in the subway stations because they feel safer there than they do out in the open where they could be killed by a cluster bomb. They go there day after day hoping that things will change, and it's always the same. They have enough food, but all of the other necessities of life have taken a real hit. About a week ago, there was a story, a reporter from CNN was talking about these people at the subway station in Kharkiv and said, but today something really beautiful happened. He said, watch this. And the camera pans to an orchestra of young musicians who are playing the most beautiful sonatas and the most beautiful symphony. And the people were transfixed. They were just listening to it. Some had tears in their eyes. Some couldn't believe that this was actually happening. And the musicians at the end said, we're all in this together. We're all hurting at the same time. We're all hurting in this together. And we thought that with a little music, it might brighten your spirits and lift you up emotionally. And so the people applauded, and they kept playing. And they played for another hour, and the people thoroughly loved it. All the while, bombs are exploding overhead. Artillery shells are falling left and right all over them, and yet there they were in that subway station, safe for now, as they sought shelter hundreds of feet below the surface. A beautiful thing unfolded in the midst of tragedy and lying and deceit and treachery. The very same scenario that happened on that first Holy Thursday night when Jesus took bread and wine and instituted the sacrament of the Holy Eucharist. It was a beautiful gift that God had given us, and yet it was not given without a particular personal cost to him. He knew that he had an appointment, an ancient appointment, with an executioner the next day. But even knowing that, he didn't let that get in his way. He wanted to give us one last gift, a gift that we still celebrate this very day in 2022. 21 centuries later, we're still doing the same thing. As we continue to celebrate the Lord's body and blood, the next rite we will have is the washing of hands. I want to say something very brief about that. Traditionally, it's the washing of feet. We all know that. But I thought in light of the COVID contagion, and then in the light of just making it a little easier, we could switch from feet to hands. And there's about a 1,600-year-old tradition that goes with the washing of hands. It goes way, way back to St. Benedict of Nursia, who founded the first organized monastery in the Western Church. And it was Benedict's custom when guests came to visit that he would greet them at the door with a pitcher of warm water and a bowl and towels. And he would wash the hands of each person. They would dry their hands, and then he would say, "You're welcome. I'm glad you're here."